and reviews from British Jews. That speaks the truth. All his hair is blood. Said he and tennis get the fuck up. He quit out and moved the tab. Want you to leave a thumbs up and send an ultra chat. We will all support WrestleTalk.
Why? Oh, God. That wasn't fucking like that a second ago. What is the fucking problem? God damn it. Hey. This is why I'm not allowed to push the buttons. I've only been doing this for how long? Welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast review of AEW Dynamite. We're only a few days away from Revolution and things are going swimmingly. I can already feel the mods panicking for 15 seconds before we get it sorted. Hello, welcome. I'm your host, Tempest, who is very good at his job, and I am joined by my wonderful and lovely co-host, Sat E. Nyangi. Sat, what's causing all this, besides me being bad?
He's a bad, bad man, as they say. It is Sat-E Day. Happy Sat-E Day, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, your Chief Vibe Officer, CVO. 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 And of course, before we begin, hello. What's causing all this? Potentially, arguably, the greatest stacked list of cards for Revolution's history. We're going to talk about Ricochet and Swerve Strickland's contract signing.
Hell yeah, we are. That and the main event. So if you want to get any of your thoughts read out on this here show, make sure you send in your WrestleChats for today to WrestleTalk.com/support. We will read out all of the ones that are $5 and above before the end of the show. Otherwise, make sure that you participate in the live chat. Leave a comment down below if you are watching on catch up, and make sure, of course, that you're subscribed to the WrestleTalk Podcast channel if you aren't already. Indeed, what we are starting with today was kind of the focus of Dynamite. Not a lot of time do you see two full segments dedicated to one act or one rivalry, but we definitely did on this show because we opened with a bit of stuff with MJF, which we will get to, but then the first proper segment of the show was the contract signing between Ricochet and Swerve Strickland. Now, they both come down to the ring looking all cool and stuff. Ricochet's got his third piece of Eagles merch on in as many weeks. He's got his backwards ball cap. He's really repping the Eagles. He's from Kentucky. It's a little weird.
And he lives in Vegas.
But you know what? That's fine. Kentucky doesn't have sports outside of the Kentucky Derby and probably basketball, college basketball.
What about Vegas? Because he lives in Vegas.
Yeah, they're getting sports teams now. You could be a hockey fan. Or don't, because the Vegas Golden Knights beat the Maple Leafs last night, and you won't be my friend if you cheer for them. Anyway.
Yes, sir.
We come together, and we start with Swerve being pretty calm. Just keeps telling Ricochet, just sign the contract, man. He's just done with him. He just doesn't want to hear about him anymore. Doesn't want to hear his voice anymore. Just saying, just sign the contract, bro. Just sign the contract. My phone is buzzing, and that sometimes means that something has still gone wrong. So
Eddie Kingston texting you?
I wish. Okay. No, it is simply Andy Datson telling me about his Pokemon cards. Hi. Anyway, back to it. Apologies. When things go wrong, sometimes people call me and be like, you're still not recording, or the audio's gone, or something. But we're all good, as far as I can tell. Back to the matter at hand, of course. Ricochet starts really getting into, the past history of all that. He's talking himself up. He's going to be AEW World Champion. All of this is what he was meant to be doing. He's gotten to this place where he didn't start this.
No.
Swerve started this. The people decided to bully him. And I love when he uses the word bully to describe the situation that he has found himself in.
It's true.
Because he's a bully. We've seen him pushing people around backstage, the stagehand guys, the guy who was selling the burgers at that one Dynamite show. He's a bully, but he sees what's happening to him as bullying, and it's just a fantastic character. But point is, he's talking about how this is where he's always meant to be. He beats Swerve one more time, and he's going to go on and be AEW World Champion. And you can always tell that if someone says, I'm going to be whatever World Champion, and if you just don't believe them, then that's kind of dead in the water for me. And I know this because Ricochet was doing this like 4 or 5 months ago. He was saying, I'm going to be AEW World Champion. And I was like, are you though? Now, him saying, I will be the AEW World Champion. I was like, I kind of believe you. And I'm not like meant to in kayfabe because he's a heel and he's this sniveling little chicken S-word heel and everything. But he's been so good as this character that the conviction with which he says, I will be AEW World Champion has convinced me that he's right. Fantastic stuff. But in the midst of all of this, he's making cracks to Swerve about this and that. And he says, oh, you don't have a real good history with these. Oh, you don't worry. Nobody's going to burn your house down this time. And through all of this, Swerve's just like, just sign the contract. Just sign it. And finally he snaps. And Swerve has a little bit of trouble like getting his words out in this promo. Like he's kind of stumbling through it, but it feels more like he is choked with rage than just mumbling and bumbling your way through a promo. So a bit easier to live with, particularly with the reactions that he was still getting despite this, because there's a really easy way for that to, be a train wreck. Yeah. Didn't happen. The people were chanting, whose house? And finally, when you get to the climax of this segment where Swerve goes, he's like, I'm tired of talking about you. I'm tired of looking at you. You're self-entitled. You're self-righteous prick. All of these things. And he says that after Revolution, you'll only be remembered for 2 things. One of them will be Swerve briefly reviving your career. And 2 will be your ring announcer wife. And everyone goes, oh! And that line got holy S chants. Just a line in a promo. So this immediately tells you the kind of crowd that Sacramento was on this day. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal from start to finish. But this gets Ricochet up. After all the taunting and the needling and the prodding of Swerve only needed to give 1 back, and that's what got Ricochet all the way up to a 10. It's a beautiful dichotomy between them. And Ricochet both signed the contract. And Ricochet gets up, and Swerve gets up. And Swerve's going to turn to leave, but you can tell that, like, he knows something's about to happen. He's not stupid. No. So he turns around, he turns his back to him, and Ricochet grabs the scissors out of his pocket, and he's going to stab Swerve in the head, and Swerve just catches his arm, goes in his own pocket, pulls out his own pair of scissors, and gives him 1 quick one to the head. Ricochet starts bleeding a little bit. He takes an incredible bump over the table. And Swerve just kind of leaves it like that, because they're going to wrestle in the main event. They've got a tag team match set up. So there wasn't a need for loads of physicality. This was just like the appetizer on the show. But again, I think perfectly set up and displayed who these 2 guys are. And again, most dangerous man in AEW. And Ricochet trying to be that and failing. Because deep down, that's not who he is. I love this. Love all of this. Very, very strong opening segment.
So one of the things that I loved was when Tony Schiavone, who was like conducting the contract signing, asked us about the robe. And he goes, oh man, that's in the back, man. Maybe I'm making some alterations to it. And then you see Prince Nana fuming. And it's like, come on, man, take it easy.
He's going to come out with an Eagles logo on that thing.
You think?
That's my guess. I think he's going to come. It's going to be like decked out in green. It's going to be hideous. It's just going to have the Eagles logo everywhere. That's got to be why he's doing the Eagles thing.
I'm getting visions of Kurt Hennig, just desecrating Ric Flair's robe when he joined the NWO and he left the Four Horsemen. So I dread to think what's going to happen to the robe. I'm hoping it still stays in its original state. But that's the whole point. If it's been altered, then it has been desecrated, right? No matter if Nana gets it back, unless they do an Undertaker's urn thing where they're going to turn into jewelry. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? He got the remnants of the robe back. I feel like there's symbolism with it. If it's been altered, it is like messing with your house. It's cutting your kids' hair. It's violating your partner's outfits. There's things you don't do. So I'm hoping that the robe is not altered. It's just more mind games. But I just love how he was heckling Swerve the whole time. Ricochet was heckling Swerve, and talking about how he was bullied. Because there's a part of me I was like, you know what? Some of the greatest heels is having truth in their convictions. Because yes, he is a bully, but you could argue he tried to do things the nice way. He tried to do things the easy way. He tried to pander to the crowd. The crowd didn't take to him. The crowd turned on him. They chucked toilet paper. How many people you can say in mainstream wrestling gets toilet paper chucked at them? Not many. It happened to Ricochet. So when you've got that recent history in mind, you're like, you know what? We did create this monster. We did laugh at him when his card got torn up. We did laugh at him when he got ruffled up. So to get this version we're getting right now, we created a monster. It's kind of our fault, and we now have to, reap what we sow.
Maybe we're the monster.
We are. Listen, I've for 20 years, I thought that 21st century, we're the monsters. But that's a conversation for another video. Swerve Strickland, like you said, he was chewing on his words. He was so full of rage because he didn't want to do a back and forth. It's almost like a guy who came in to do business, and you're dragging at the theatrics because he didn't want to do the theatrics at all. Towards the end, what made me laugh with the scissors part of it, of course, is like the nice golden shining, shears of that Ricochet has, and then you've got like a simple black handled one by Swerve. So in my head, I was like, that's not glamorous. At least have a glamorous scissors if you're gonna stab someone in the head. Gosh,
he's the most dangerous, man.
It has to be.
Ricochet's scissors are performative. He's not actually dangerous. He just went and got something bedazzled and thinks he's hot stuff. So I completely agree. And I think conviction with what you're saying as a heel is a big part of it, because he doesn't need to be right, but he needs to believe that he's right.
Bingo.
And I've never believed anything that Ricochet says in promos until all this has happened. Yeah. And it's very, very good. And we'll jump ahead to the main event now as well, because this was the Road to Revolution Tag Match edition of Dynamite. And I loved it. I love big tag matches with people in like concurrent running feuds, all getting put together and just being allowed to show out and go crazy. And that's what we got kind of up and down this show. There were 3 of them. This was the main event. It was Swerve and Brody King versus Ricochet and Kazuchika Okada. Of course, Kazuchika Okada and Brody King announced for Revolution for the Continental Championship.
Yes, sir.
It's been built on Collision more than anything. But here we got a big main event match on Dynamite. Now, there were a number of things that I really enjoyed about this. First, you get the stare down thing out of the way early. It's Swerve and it's Okada. And you just put both of them in the ring together. And it's like, I'm looking into the future right now. And it looks glorious. I can't wait for that match. Who knows when that'll be? But they will air this clip in a promo package when we do get to that point.
Bingo.
And for the rest of this match, save for a move here and there, there were no extended sequences of Swerve and Okada wrestling one another. Excellent layout. Protect what you've got. Fantastic. The early portion of this match with the babyfaces running wild was also so much fun because they paired off Ricochet and Swerve, and Brody and Okada. They both went to separate sides of the ring and were doing their beatdown, and they hit a lot of really cool like tag team offense. The Defy lads. Everybody got on me that one time that I said Brody King was from Washington. What I meant is that he came up in Washington as one of the guys from Defy. But regardless, they have that shared commonality. And they just went nuts together. They set both Ricochet and Okada up in the chair at ringside, and Brody did his running clothesline, jumped onto him. Brody then picked both of them up on each of his shoulders, and Swerve hit this awesome like double stomp onto them as we went to commercial. Good stuff. Good opening stretch. Swerve then gets cut off by Ricochet hitting him with a code breaker, and this is where we got the heat, beat him down a little bit. You know, this was mainly Ricochet beating down Swerve. Again, there wasn't a lot of Okada and Swerve interaction in this match, but it built up to a big hot tag with Brody, and Brody went nuts with his hot tag. He would blow Okada away with a chop. And this is a guy who wrestled strong style for all these years against your Nakamura's and your Ishii's and your Shingos and all of this. And he's still getting chopped by Brody King, and he looks like he's on the verge of death. So this is all just phenomenal. But eventually the numbers start to kind of overwhelm Brody again, and it becomes clear that it's actually going to be Swerve that's going to need the hot tag to end the match. But just as he gets it, this is where we start to then lose a lot of the focus of, you know, the baby faces having control of the match, and things start to break down a little bit because Kazuchika Okada goes and he grabs his belt and he goes and he's going to use it to hit Brody King.
Yeah.
And this is where we got one of the biggest interactions between the two as Swerve hit Okada with the house call, knocks him out. He goes outside the ring. He's pretty much done. But the belt lies in the ring and Ricochet just takes it, whacks Swerve in the head with it, and pins him. So just before their match at Revolution, Ricochet once again pins Swerve Strickland. This is one of those deals with matches like this is you got to beat somebody because as soon as they brought the belt in the ring, I was like, oh, they're not going to do a DQ, are they? That's really lame. Because have some conviction. Beat somebody and set something up for there to be a reason for them to lose.
Exactly.
And they did. Ricochet gets another win here over Swerve right before their pay-per-view match. And I'm sure Swerve's going to get his win back on Sunday. At least I hope he does. Our predictions will be going up very soon here on the WrestleTalk Podcast channel for Revolution. But I just thought this was such a fun main event match. And they've set Ricochet up so well to potentially be the number one contender for the AEW World title. I personally don't think he's going to be, at least not yet.
No.
I'll give you a little bit of a tidbit from our predictions. I think that Swerve comes out of this with the win. I think Swerve wins the title, maybe at Dynasty. Feels like a good 1 year later type thing, having won it for the first time at Dynasty last year. And then maybe at Double or Nothing, you do Ricochet versus Swerve for the title in the main event, your rubber match, match 3, decide it there, and Swerve probably retains, and we continue on the direction that we're on. Maybe then towards a Swerve and Hangman Page match at All In, maybe for the world title this time. Maybe I'm just saying, it'd be really cool. The main event scene of AEW, though, now, once we kind of get past the Mox and Cope thing, the world title scene is so lush with believable top guys who could all be swapped out for one another in big main event matches on pay-per-view. And that's something that I don't think we really had like into the fall of last year, at least not pushed as such. But now we're in a really good position, and I include Ricochet in that.
Well, what I liked about the tag team match, you mentioned it earlier, it was like strange bedfellows. You had a team of people that had never teamed up before from different worlds, because you don't see Brody King team up often with people not from his own tribe, because for the longest time he was part of House of Black. Now he's, you know, Hounds of Hell. So you rarely often see him team with someone that's not Buddy or Malachi or having Julia by his side. So it was interesting to see him and Swerve, who was once upon a time had his own group. So that was interesting. Kazuchika Okada, again, part of the New Elite, and now he's teaming up with Ricochet, who a guy who once upon a time was going to challenge him for the Continental title.
They wrestled at World's End.
They did, yes. So they went from being, you know, enemies to being like the enemy of my enemy is my acquaintance. So them teaming up together, it was another interesting thing. You had an interesting dynamic of the fact that during the tag team match, I like that Swerve and Brody King had a great double team flurry. They were complementing each other with the moves they were doing in the ring. And Brody King is someone that is weird. For the longest time, it's not like when anyone looks at him wrestle or to see his presentation, everyone always goes, man, this guy's great. Yeah. This guy's great. And you'll say, well, we've all say he's great. What are we going to do about the fact that he's great? Do you know what I'm saying? It's like for ages, he's been part of different groups, tag teams. He's had legendary indie feuds that's kind of bled over into AEW. He's someone that should have been pushed a long time ago. But now that the dust has settled, now that AEW is culling the herd and keeping people that actually want to be here and wrestle, it seems like it's now time to push someone like Brody King, give him the kind of push you once gave to someone like Miro, because there is like a slot for a big, badass hoss. And then after watching how WWE elevated Damian Priest, who once upon a time we couldn't even envision what his ceiling would be, I'm saying that we're not in the era where it doesn't matter if you're 38, 39, if you got the talent, you still go. Just strike while the iron's hot. He's now being positioned with Okada. Swerve's a former world champion. Ricochet is an upper mid-card babyface. For the longest time, Brody King's identity in AEW was as a tag team wrestler. Forget what you know him from. Forget the ROH stuff. Forget the stuff you know from Defy. You just know him as the big guy in a group. But recently, we've seen that AEW's made a concerted effort, especially in Collision, to highlight that this guy is one to watch. I'm hoping that 2025 is going to be the breakout year of Brody King. And if they continue stuff like this, putting him in matches with Okada, putting him with Swerve, put him with Paige and MJF. I hope that he starts to pick up some victories because he started as well with the C2. Like they're trying to make you see, hey, he's facing Ospreay. He's been put in situations. I'm hoping that this is like AEW because I feel like AEW usually do that. If they see a guy they want to start pushing, they're not going to let him win straight away, but they're going to put him in key matches to let you know, hey, we have something here. They took him to Japan. Of all the wrestlers, he was taken to Japan for the show they had not too long ago. Wrestle Kingdom. No, not Wrestle Kingdom.
Dynasty.
Wrestle Dynasty. There's so many dynasties because AEW Dynasty is coming up. But what I'm trying to say to wrap this up is that I'm so happy for Brody King, and I'm hoping that 2025 is the year. Every time I see the white, taped fist, because he punched the wall because he was passionate about his bros. This is a guy that lives and eats and breathes this industry and the people around him. So I hope he gets the push.
I do too. And honestly, just as you were saying that, I was like, well, what could we do with Brody King? Because a lot of things are set in stone, but it feels like there's a clear progression for a lot of the different like top titles and everything. Why don't we have Brody King be TNT champion?
I was thinking that they should put him in the mix with Garcia and Cole because it seems like the TNT title is starting to brew this. It's starting to form an identity because the issue has been, again, because Daniel Garcia is not here, so this is my Daniel Garcia portion of discussion in the TNT state of address. The TNT title hasn't had an identity because the champion has been chasing other titles.
Yeah.
That's been a big criticism. Until recently with Adam Cole challenging him, I'm hoping if you add in Brody King, that'd be great. Yes. I would love for him to be TNT champion because you've had big guys hold the title, Samoa Joe, Wardlow, Powerhouse Hobbs. So it's got big man history, big man credit, and of course Miro.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Miro comparison really did just like what? Okay, so Darby has a good run, smaller guy, babyface guy, and I'm not saying turn Brody King heel by any means, but Darby just has a great run until he runs into Miro and Miro kills him. Let's have Brody King go in there, maybe not immediately, but like after a little bit longer, take out Daniel Garcia and win that title. I think that would be a nice next step for the TNT title to have, like, not that Daniel Garcia's reign has been like fine.
Treading water.
Yeah, it's been treading water. The match with Adam Cole on Collision was actually very good. So Collision in general was very good this past week. But yeah, it needs another thing. There hasn't been a thing for the title really since the Cope and Christian feud. And I think if we just went in a different direction where you've got your Kenny Omega as international champion, your Okada as continental champion, and then just something different over here, which is Brody.
It's going to be Adam Cole before Brody. If anything, if we're being realistic, it does seem like, because Adam Cole, they have mentioned he's yet to win a singles title in AEW. It seems weird because when you think of Adam Cole, you think titles. So for him to be beltless for this long because of unfortunate situations, you know for a fact that Daniel Garcia's time is coming to an end. You can see who they want to push, and it sucks. You know when they're not putting their all into a guy, because I don't doubt me on this. The moment they built up Adam Cole with the TNT title, they're going to instantly do all the things we wanted Garcia to do with the title.
Could well be, but...
Then Brody kills him.
Yeah, Brody, quick title reign. Brody, get the belt on Brody. Gonna go back to the era of being like, let's just give Eddie Kingston all the belts. Let's just give Mark Briscoe all the belts. Let's just give Brody King all the belts. All the belts for our favorites.
Why not?
So, indeed, let's get into some of your Rico chats. Let us know what you thought about both the main event, the contract signing, the show in general by sending them into WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll be reading out all the ones that are $5 and above before the end of the show. With that being said, Rafael Garcia says, I've realized something. Where most wrestling nowadays wants to be cinema, quotes, I do appreciate it more when it's theater. We praise cinema for big moments, but theater draws you in. Toni and Mariah was so theater. I felt there. We can live with both. I'm also petitioning a few things. One, Swerve and Brody King will now be known as Swerve in Our Hell since they did face Chaos. Yeah, I suppose they did. And Max Caster faces all returns and debuts first. And 3, Hangman be charged for stealing JBL's truck again. Great show with no Jericho.
Until you mentioned him, that wasn't in my head.
Yeah, it was nice. So screw you, Rafael Garcia. I'm bringing it back up. Yeah, I mean, I think you made a lot of really fun points there. I always love when the Defy guys end up in their own little universe. Like anytime they've done Darby and Brody as a rivalry, love that. Obviously, love Darby and Swerve as a rivalry. Swerve and Brody together are very fun. anything involving like Nick Wayne being put in that kind of mix. I love it. I don't know why. I'm not from there, but I've seen bits of it, and I like all these guys so that when they're with each other, I don't know. I vibe with it.
To be honest, the Seattle people do have Canadian aesthetic.
Well, yeah, Seattle is. I'm not gonna say that. Seattle is not Vancouver, but they get mad enough when Vancouver Blue Jay fans come down for Mariners games. So
really,
take that, Seattle. I want to go to Seattle one day. I feel like I'd fit in. I like the grungy atmosphere.
Not even just the grungy. Listen, we love checkered shirts, and you're a checkered shirt aficionado. I am too in my home, actually. To the point that my partner bought our son checkered outfits just to match Big Daddy.
Look at me. You're telling me I wouldn't fit in Seattle?
You would. Listen, I'm actually campaigning for you to, in the distant future, because I love having you nearby, knowing that you'll train right away. Yeah, if things, improve stateside, potential.
You never know. EJO says, "G'day, W. The tag matches tonight were excellent. Just based on tonight, I'm wondering if randomly thrown together face versus heel tag teams are better than the faction feuds that AEW have been mostly doing since its inception. Happy Sat E-Day from EJO." It's an interesting question because I don't disagree with the sentiment that you are proposing there at all. I did a video on partsFUNknown, God, what was it? 3 years ago now, where it was in particular with relation to the women's division and how to get more women on TV and everything. And they needed to do it by having more factions.
Female factions.
Yes, exactly. Put more women in factions, and that way you can get more people on TV and various things. Over the years, for whatever reason, even when we've had, in the inception of the trios titles and everything, it never felt like we would utilize the faction v faction stuff nearly as much. The trios division has kind of been lackluster since it was conceived, just because we so rarely get the big trios matches between people
like we used to.
Just
get random one. It would be like Darby and Sting and Friend.
Yeah,
it would be Moxley, or it would be CM Punk. It would be whoever. I miss those days when you just get random. Those were the matches that made people campaign for the trios title. When the trios title arrived, we're like, "What's the formula again that we used to do?" It's like you said it. In my head, I was like, "Oh, the trios title could be the faction title."
Yeah, and that's really what it is. That's always been what it was in New Japan. It's just like whoever hold the never open weight 6-man tag titles, that's just the faction that was on top at that point. And that's what it could have been here. It really hasn't ever worked out to be that.
No.
And it has gotten a little bit better as of late. Like the Ops and the Patriarchy being able to just have a trios match on Dynamite and everything is a step in the right direction for that. But my point of view on the trios and factions in general was always, you do this to get as many people on TV without giving them their own specific segments as possible. That's why I still liked the Pinnacle, for example, because there were 5 guys that were always on TV in different reasons. It gave MJF so many different reasons to be on TV, kept his character fresh.
Yes, sir.
And in that, you got matches like FTR and MJF versus Sting, Darby, and Punk. Really fun matches like that. But I don't know. They've never really lent into that sort of thing. And maybe it's because you want to keep certain matches from, just doing them. But I don't know. I think we really lost it when we started getting into the Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite stuff. Where how did we never get Kenny and Claudio as a match coming out of that type thing? I'm getting into a whole rant here, but
no, I love it.
I'm with you. I want big 8-man tag matches on every show.
You can tell how our personalities bleed into each other sometimes. Yeah, I love it. I love when you're passionate. And please, I go off on a tangent so many times. I feel guilty. I was like, oh, we've got an hour show, whatever it is. Let me just stick to the point. But I love when you expand upon your points. I mean, that's what people come to see us for. I assume. Comment section. I assume.
Well, in the meantime, we're going to get into the rest of our review here and get to the rest of your.
Before we begin, I don't know if did you put down the Prime Video news, because I put it on my notes. I don't know if you're gonna mention it.
I wasn't gonna really mention it, but this did come up, and fair enough. Let us get into our show, and we can discuss even the Prime news a little bit.
I'll put that down because in my head I'm always like I'm the small print guy because he's the big picture guy. He's like, and I'm like, just in case people want to know,
You keep me honest. I appreciate you.
And
But
you keep me honest as well.
continue to get in your Omega chats, your Rico chats, if you will, to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out all the rest of the ones at the end of the show. In the meantime, MJF kicked off the show. He was outside the building in Sacramento, and he's talking about Hangman Page. Hangman Page, you want to fight, you can come find me on the streets of Sacramento. These people like to say that Hangman did nothing wrong. Hangman did nothing wrong. Well, Hangman, if you're looking for a fight, I've got a bullet with your name on it. It says Hangman. He's really fired up, like just impassioned and everything. Love this, but we'll get back to it. This was your open of the show. Then we had our contract signing segment, in which I forgot to mention. I made this joke in the edited review, but after the weeks of Ricochet going out there and insulting a local sports team, I can't believe he got to Sacramento, home of the historically terrible Sacramento Kings, and didn't mention it. No. They're doing better this year. They're like 4 games above 500, so that's good, but like it's the Kings. The Rock got one of the biggest reactions in the history of wrestling by saying that the Kings suck.
Yes, I remember. It was the
Rock concert. I'll be sure to come back when the Lakers beat the Kings in May. It's still to this day, like, that was the OG of the Kevin Owens and Elias Seattle Supersonics deal. Boo. That was longer, but this was louder. Anyway, back into it, though. We got our opening match, which was an 8-man tag match. We have alluded to it already. It was Will Hobbs, Will Ospreay. Oh, that's why you don't have the same people who have the same name. That's why he's Powerhouse Hobbs. That's crazy. Mark Briscoe and Orange Cassidy taking on the Murder Machines, Mark Davis and Brian Keith. I don't know why. I just like halfway through this went, Brian Keith's in this match with the Don Callis family. That's interesting. I wonder who's going to get pinned in this match, do you think? And that's fair. We're not quite through the woods with Brian Keith being in the learning tree stuff, but it's all good.
All right. I don't know because I wasn't here for it. When did Chris Jericho and Don Callis become buddies? That was
last week. A backstage segment.
The reason why it annoys me is because Jericho used to be so on with these kind of like,
attention to detail?
Yes. Right?
Yeah.
Hey, mate. I'm like, wait. The whole group, they were trying to recruit to the group, all in. You were feuding with each other. It seemed like the group was created for your babyface run. And then, anyway, yes.
Don't want it. Don't care.
Okay, it never happened.
Yep.
Yes. So he wasn't Bounty Hunter now, because I differentiate now. Bounty Hunter, Brian Keith wears the chaps, the long trousers, or the Tajiri pants, as someone says.
Captain
online.
High Pants.
Captain
He's
High
Shawn
Pants.
Michaels in the dirt sheet. No 8.
Yes, listen. Shawn Michaels in '93 when he used to cover the tummy. He's wearing tights, generic tights, just bad apple Brian Keith, and I'm like, oh man, they're taking away all the unique. Imagine there's something you got a USP, unique selling point. They're like, nah, let's just make you Tom. Let's make you Lee Johnson for AEW.
Yeah. Well, he still did well in this match for his role because there was a lot of interplay amongst the Don Callis family here. We started off with the babyfaces running wild. They all got a chance to do punches in the corners, and it's all built up to the spot where Orange Cassidy tagged in, went up, did one punch, jumped down and went, yay! And everyone popped big because this crowd was really hot. Of course, this then leads to the heat, where Orange got cut off by the Don Callis family, and that included Don Callis himself, beating down Orange at ringside. He really likes picking on Orange Cassidy, and that's not very nice. I wonder if Trent's going to come back at any point and do anything with that, but maybe not.
Would you be annoyed if Trent came back and we retconned the heel turn?
I don't know how much I would care, really, because I don't think he fits with the rest of this Don Callis family.
New version.
Yeah, I don't think it's a great fit, so it's like, I appreciate them sticking with detail and all of that. It would probably have to be addressed in some way, but if he's not part of the group, I'm fine with that. Maybe he can see what happened to Chuck while he was gone and go like, oh God, even though I'm the one that ended Chuck's career, maybe at some point he had a moment of clarity.
There's a conversation another time because I'm opening up a can of worms on Trent Barretta, but he's a guy that's had an unfortunate run of injuries.
Absolutely.
And each time he comes back, is like, well, what's happened to my workplace? There's always like,
it's
like the tide keeps changing, and he's like, where do I fit in? But yeah, conversation for another time because I fear for his spot in the company.
Yeah. Regardless, though, a lot of the match had to do with Mark Davis being asked to be big and mean and everything. And he would go in there and he'd wrestle and he'd be forceful. He body slammed Orange Cassidy really hard, for example. But there's still the reluctance within him to actually be bad. And that comes more into play later. Ultimately, the one who gets the big hot tag in this match is Powerhouse Hobbs. And I haven't had a chance to say in recent weeks, Powerhouse Hobbs is so goddamn awesome. And I love this little push that he's gotten. Because as soon as he didn't win the title in the match with Moxley, it was like, I really hope this isn't like when Brody got his title shot against Moxley a few years ago. And like, oh, he wins this battle royal we didn't expect. He gets a cool title shot. It's great. And then afterwards, he just kind of disappears a little bit. Yeah. I was worried that could happen. That hasn't been what's happened. His feud with Big Bill has been a highlight of AEW TV. Shockingly. Like, I wasn't expecting that someone entering the Jericho vortex would survive. Yeah. And it's mostly because he hasn't been interacting with Chris Jericho. No. He's just been interacting with everyone else. So that's good. Those surrounding Jericho are not inherently bad. They're just leeched to this horrible wrestler. Yeah, but anyway, Powerhouse Hobbs goes through this and everybody starts hitting their signature moves. Everybody goes nuts. They bring a chair into the ring so Mark Davis can use it to dive to the outside. Mark Davis, Mark Briscoe. It's too many people with the same name in this match. You can't have more than one set. It's 2 Wills and 2 Marks. Not happening. But eventually Will Ospreay is going to be the one that tags in and gets the big win. He's the star of the match. And he indeed does hit the Os Cutter on Brian Keith and hits him with the Hidden Blade for the win. However, the celebration would not last long, as the entire Don Callis family then just descended upon the ring. They beat down everybody. They powerbombed Powerhouse Hobbs onto the stairs that were on its side. They beat down Will. They took out Mark Briscoe and Orange Cassidy at ringside. And this is when Kyle Fletcher comes out. Kyle Fletcher makes his way down to the ring, and he's going to beat down Will Ospreay, and Mark Davis starts being like, hey, man, we shouldn't do that. That's not very nice. And this is where Kyle gets right in his face and be like, you don't tell me what to do. We tell you what to do, and you're not doing it. He's pushing him around. And you're starting to feel like this is the most development that this arc has had to this point, probably. And they give Mark Davis a chair, and they say, hit him. Hit Will Ospreay with the chair. And he doesn't want to do it. But eventually he hauls off and just whacks Will Ospreay with the chair. And then he's basically done. He's just like, he's shaking his head. He's unhappy. They set up the chair. Kyle Fletcher hits the brainbuster on Will Ospreay through the chair, leaves him laying. That's where we leave things going into the steel cage match on Sunday.
You can't hit your mate with a chair and then look disappointed. You just throw the chair down and take the consequences. That's where the issue lies, because it's like, I don't know. I think this is my biggest issue, I think, with the Mark Davis portion of the storyline. I want him to get pushed. I'm a fan of Aussie Open. I'm a fan of both guys in the group. It's unfortunate that Mark Davis' injury actually opened up the opportunity for Kyle Fletcher to actually flourish. Because for years, you're like, oh, they got potential to be big stars, but the potential is happening now. Mark Davis is back. His babyfaceness didn't really work because people didn't really know who he was. The whole being Ospreay's friend didn't really jive with the fans. You pivot. My head was like, oh, this might be the slow heel turn. Go with the heel turn, because him as a face won't work. He's not going to get the reaction. He's a big, nasty heel, got compared to Stan Hansen during the match. I think they should go all in. The fact that he hit the chair on Ospreay, then he walked out in a huff and a puff, but he's like, you just did the heel thing. You can't, I don't know. It's not like the Wheeler Yuta thing we're going to talk about later. It's like we've known who Wheeler is for years. He bled in the ring to earn respect. We're still trying to figure out who Mark is. Just make him a heel first. It's right there. And anyway, high development, but it's a bit wonky. It's kind of like there's an easy route to take it, but they doing this. It's like it's not even needed. I feel like it's not the crisis of conscience is not needed. Just be a heel, embrace it. He really did a promo well. I had to just go with it.
I said last week while you weren't here, missed you. By the way, shout out to Nathan. Go watch last week's review as well.
Yeah, shout out Nathan. I turned it on. I was like, I'm not there, but there's someone else in my chair. It rhymed. But yeah, shout out for taking care of the seat right here. Thank you. Appreciate it. And taking care of my dog.
So my thought with this is that they're intentionally leaving Mark Davis a bit ambiguous with all of this. to give Kyle something to do after the cage match. Like, just having something immediately in the pipeline for Kyle. And I think if I was booking the show, necessarily, if I'm spitballing, brainstorming here, I think you do a deal where Don Callis comes to Kyle Fletcher and have Mark Davis in the room and just have him say, like, we need to get this guy on track. This guy's not pulling his weight around here. Like, insulting him openly as he stood there. And it's like, Kyle, I know you're a big singles guy and everything, but I need you to think about being a tag team to get him back to where he needs to be for this to be a good partnership. And Kyle could be like, I don't want to team with him. Look at me. I'm the protostar. I'm destined for big things. I'm going to be world champion and all this. Be like, yeah, I know, but this guy, this Mark Davis guy, he's really not working out. So we need to put you guys back together and they can have this dissension tag team type thing going on, which can either eventually lead to a Mark Davis full heel turn where he commits to it, or you then have a break and you do a match between them. And it'll be difficult because the only problem with that is I still don't think that gets Mark Davis over as a babyface. And that is the struggle with all of this. You have a great heel in Kyle Fletcher, but I don't know what you would do with Mark Davis other than just turn him full heel. Yeah. But I also don't really want to see Aussie Open as just a consistent tag team because I've loved what Kyle's done so much as a single.
Look what they've done.
Balance.
They've actually made us go Aussie Open or the Proto Star, which I never thought that would be the case. Not in a bad way, but it's like it is like the singles run has gone so well, you kind of like regress. It sucks. You actually regress Kyle Fletcher if you put him back as a tag team guy. But I do want to say one of my favorite spot in the match, and I want to give a shout out to the Public Enemies podcast. And one of my favorite people that I follow on X, formerly known as Twitter. It was the vertical suplex stance when you had the Murder Machine do the vertical suplex stance, and each member were taking their turns, which was Mark Davis, and then it was Lance Archer and Brian Cage. Public Enemies, the podcast, they called it was like a blunt rotation. They've never seen a blunt rotation in wrestling. So I want to give them a shout out because they made me chuckle, and I want to give them they're great people to follow, always humorous, they do great memes, just great guys in the IWC space.
God, the Don Callis family is, I think, a nightmare blunt rotation, if I'm being honest. That's not my jam. Anyway. Yeah, this is a really fun opening match, though.
And before we do go, a few weeks ago, probably like last month, people found out a Proto Star is actually a real thing. It made me laugh because people thought that Kyle Fletcher made up Proto Stars, like a prototype of a star. Because no, it's a real thing. It's like a star that is forming. So it kind of explains what he is. He's a star that's forming. It's not quite there yet. It's kind of like the pre-star. It's a Proto Star. So yeah, people found that out. It was actually because someone actually asked them, "What is a Proto Star?" And then someone put a description like this is actually
Google is your friend.
Yes.
Anywho, we got Kenny Omega and Konosuke Takeshita as a video package that played up their history from DDT and also from 2023 in Omega getting beat at All Out. And it was very good. Very good little promo pack. I believe before this was when we had the announcement or whatever of Amazon Prime carrying the AEW pay-per-views going forward. Cool.
But
doesn't affect me. But
nope. I'm a Prime user. You know, boo me if you will. Jeff Bezos and all that kind of stuff. Allegedly, don't boo me if you want. Max is still a thing, right? They got a Max deal because it is a lot of chatter that is actually the same price with each of the providers. Mm-hmm. Max is still a thing, right?
It is. As far as I can tell, Max does not have pay-per-view capabilities yet, but as soon as they do, then that's where they'll go to.
Right. So this is like in the meantime sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I use Prime Video and I started thinking, oh, do I benefit from this? I get WWE, Netflix, and Prime Video, and I looked up and like, do you want to buy this? I was like, okay, no.
Yeah, no. Oh well.
But yes. Watch the show. That's me. No, there's not me poo-pooing. It's just I thought I was getting it for free. I'm already a client. I was like, I'm getting client privileges, but they're like, no, dog. Do you want to buy it?
You fool.
Yeah. Sorry.
But then we had Cope versus Wheeler Yuta. Now this was almost undoubtedly the weakest match on the show, which doesn't bode terribly well for the main event of Revolution. Not that I don't think that won't be a little bit more heated than this here match, of course. Wheeler Yuta started his walk to the ring from outside the building, which is very funny because he was just in his full gear. But walking in, I guess he just wanted some fresh air beforehand. They didn't really have as big of a concourse as is usually needed for the Death Riders walk, but it's all right. He went to the ring. Cope comes out. He gets the big reaction. And they had it wasn't a bad match, but it was solid. It was just a little bit meandering in places because you know who's going to win this match, whereas every other match on the show, I didn't really know who was going to win. So, it was a little bit more of a foregone conclusion here.
It was a TV match.
It was a TV match. That's it. And it wasn't a bad TV match, but it was a TV match. And eventually you get through some of this. Wheeler Yuta works over Cope. Wheeler Yuta took a lot more of this match than I kind of anticipated that he would.
Yeah, same.
But he managed to hit the Psycho knee. And in the process of hitting it, Cope rolled out of the ring and had to be picked up, thrown back into the ring, and gets tied up in the cattle mutilation. So still, Wheeler Yuta consistently using Bryan Danielson's moveset, but Cope manages to get to his feet. He kind of reverses the cattle mutilation grip and hits the glam slam. So I don't know if that's foreshadowing of anything, but if Marina Shafir gets in his business again, maybe Beth Phoenix shows up. Maybe.
To be honest, the best time would have been the concerto spot to first arrive, but at the same time, it would have undercut the Willow story they were developing. But in a dream scenario, that would have been great.
Absolutely. And then Yuta went for the rewind lariat where he pulls himself back in from out of the ring. And as he turned around to do it, Cope hit him with the spear and pinned him. And that was it. That was the match. It was fine. And then Cope gets on the mic and just picks up Yuta, kind of picks him up by the hand, shakes the hand, and just says, "Hey, that's what respect looks like." And he leaves. Now, this is very interesting because, of course, all the other members of the Death Riders, Cope has been taking out one by one. And we had a chat a few weeks ago when Cope kind of announced that this was his intention, where I was like, ooh, I don't know, the faction hunter character we talked about being a bit hit or miss at times, but only because it often means that those that they are hunting don't actually get taken out at any point. They just get beaten in a match, but that doesn't mean anything. And we haven't had hardly any matches between Cope and the rest of the Death Riders since he said that. I thought for sure that we would, just because he had recently said in an interview that he wanted to wrestle Claudio. Didn't happen, but that's fine, because for storyline purposes, it made much more sense for him to go through and concerto each of the members. But he leaves Wheeler Yuta standing. And this is very interesting.
Mystique.
He's going with a different approach for this guy. Because, he's taking out all of these people. But maybe he can turn Yuta against Moxley. And it's just okay, master manipulator. You living up to that name, potentially. And he indeed shakes Yuta's hand and walks off. And Mox walks through the crowd, gets in the ring, and just starts pushing Yuta around. He's pushing him around. He's like, you're going to shake his hand? That's respect? You're going to just push his head around, all this. And eventually, Yuta pushes him back and then leaves. Goes and walks through the curtain and everything, and Mox follows him. He's berating him, just like, no, you're going to walk away from me? You're just going to walk away? And Yuta's like, yeah, I'm walking away. And off he goes. And Mox just kind of stops. And, oh, goodness me. The phone's ringing. Pardon me. He just stops and starts cutting a promo then on Cope. And it's a pretty standard promo. There wasn't a lot to write home about here. And I've been more interested in the Death Riders storyline in the last few weeks to a month or so.
That's good.
Which has been an improvement for certain, because I was really not into it at the beginning of the year. But it was all right. It's a bit all right. All this bit though, I thought was a bit of a just kind of a weak note to hit for a go home show for what is probably going to be the main event. So didn't quite love that, but it was all fine. It was a fine segment, just not enough of a really punch the go home angle for it all.
I think you're right. I think the mission got muddied. I think they introduced a new subplot really late. I think had this been a few weeks ago when he started the whole Death Rider Hunter character, he tried to reach out in a tag match or whatever, it would have made sense. I feel like it's quite late in the game, unless it was their way of saying, hey, Wheeler Yuta could potentially, turn face. And the part of me is like, if you can turn on the guy that he loves, the one that his grief of what he did to Bryan Danielson has manifested visually.
Yeah.
From he's trying to look like a goat, trying to look like 2013 Bryan Danielson with the shaggy hair, big beard. I've got 5. counter mutilation, bicycle knee. This is a guy that's actually grieving his decisions. It's kind of like he's stuck in like some sort of Stockholm syndrome situation with the group they've been a part of for quite a while, identified with the people that he looks up to. The guy that he looks up to the most, he turned on him because he kind of got convinced that, he's not the man that he used to be. And if you want to get somewhere in life, you get with us. And he did. But is that like I'm saying, the grief's manifesting. I feel like he's meant to stay heel because Bryan Danielson's going to come for him. Because why else would you tease us with Bryan Danielson mannerisms unless when Danielson comes back, Mox put the plastic bag over his head, but the one that kind of broke his heart the most was Wheeler Yuta, right? That's the one you had by yourself who looked like he was fighting in your corner.
Yeah, I agree. It is curious because I mean, it seems pretty clear that a lot of what was set up at the beginning of the Death Rider stuff might not pay off at all, just because of how well it's been perceived or whatever direction we might end up going in. And that's what it is. I have accepted that. But this does seem like one of those storyline threads that has persisted and has been kind of... It's the root of Wheeler Yuta's character right now, And to their credit, this crowd, again, being very hot, was well into all of this. They chanted like F you Yuta or F you Wheeler or whatever during the match. And then afterwards, when Yuta left and abandoned Moxley, they were chanting his name. So like, okay.
Yeah, there is legs to it.
It might have been just a very hot crowd, but there have been a run of very hot crowds. And if they're all hot, that means something's working, So they got there. They got the reaction that they desired out of this.
Yes.
I am a bit perplexed about what this means. If it does just mean that...
He's going to just kick him in the...
if Yuta just goes and reverts back and it's like, no, I must be loyal to my overlord Moxley at the pay-per-view, I'll be like, okay, it feels like we're treading on familiar ground a little bit too much with this thing. But I also don't know what makes more sense than that for the story with where we'll probably end up with. Because like you just said, I think Bryan Danielson coming back in and being involved in this is the direction. It still makes sense because that storyline thread has persisted through all of this. And I don't know. I don't know if I even want it that bad.
It's basically Temu.
It is what it is.
It's Temu bloodline law stuff. They're probably thinking we have a pseudo Jey Uso in Wheeler Yuta, as in the one that's struggling with his soul, with wherever should I please my group or should I follow my heart? Should I go with my head or go with my heart situation? And I don't know, because I feel like had he kept as a babyface and he's the one hunting down the Death Riders, you could argue they could have put him in a position where he could have won the title. Who knows? I don't know. Because Wheeler Yuta has been an interesting case. He's been in the company for quite a bit. So started with the Best Friends Squad, then he became Blackpool Combat Club. But I'll be honest with you, I've never really bought into Wheeler Yuta 110%. I always felt like there's always been something missing there, and I hope that this storyline is to find the missing piece, because obviously people see a lot of great things in him, because when it came to Daniel Garcia, for me it's like a no brainer, especially as the years gone by. He's kind of more filled out as well, and he decided that maybe socks is not the way to go, maybe I do want boots, and then Wheeler Yuta is like, maybe trainers is not the way to go, maybe I want boots. Great guys, but it's like Garcia figured out the sports entertainment side. I guess they're going for the gritty option with Wheeler Yuta, but I hope they find it, because fans do like him. I know you're a fan of him, but I've always felt like there's something missing there. It's like they do the whole technical wonderkind for a lot of wrestlers, and I never really bought it with him. And the fact he's a 3-time pure champion says a lot about the modern day thing, because the pure title is not easy to win back a lot.
Yeah.
But before I go on a tangent, I'm just saying that I hope it is a case that Cope, who doesn't really have a relationship with him, is not the one just to sway him. It's just that it's 50% subterfuge, but 50% is a truth in there, and maybe that's why Mox's a bit nervous. But we have to wait and see. That's the magic of it. It's not clear. This whole storyline has become muddied. In the beginning, like you said, even in a prediction thing, it was like this storyline had a foregone conclusion, but now we're reaching to the final hours of things. We still don't know where the storyline's going in terms of who's going to be champion on it.
Absolutely. We then got a VHS style vignette with the Outrunners just working out ahead of their tag title match. This was straight out of Smoky Mountain, and I enjoyed it. Not much to it. We returned to MJF outside, still waiting for Hangman Page to attack him. And Renee went out to, I thought he was just somewhere in Sacramento at first.
LOL.
Turns out he's like 20 feet from the building. He's just outside. He might have, shook hands with Wheeler Yuta before he went in. Who knows? But Renee went out to go and grab a word with him. And immediately Max starts to respond. And he turns around and they all get out of the way. And like the cameraman has to jump back enough steps that it knocked the lens out of alignment. Because Hangman was coming in with the heat. He was coming in hot. He drove in and was not afraid of running these people down. And he gets out. Max has run into the building. And Hangman goes, chases after him. He's going to grab Max at some point. And he grabs hold of him and he runs him through the curtain. He beats him up. He throws him down. And it's not Max. It's a guy that's dressed like Max, has the scarf like Max. And
He made me do it.
he just keeps going, he made me do it. He made me do it. And Hangman just goes like, where is he? And this is where he gets attacked from behind, gets laid out. And what I really liked about this segment, obviously there's loads to love from a character perspective and all of this, but they did a really good job of having Hangman fight back just enough. Not enough that he should win the fight, but enough to show fire. And that I think is very important with a top babyface, of which he still is in my heart. But eventually Max hits him with the ring, hits him with the heat seeker after a kick in the dick following Hangman's attempted a buckshot, and he goes out of the ring. Max gets on the mic and said, you people like it when Hangman burns stuff. You'll see how you like it when I do it. And he grabs a lighter and he grabs lighter fluid and douses Hangman Page in the lighter fluid. And he starts trying to light the lighter and he just can't get it to go. And this is where security just descends upon him. And he gets carried out kicking and screaming by like 12 dudes. This was a fantastic segment. It's very simple. This was a beatdown segment, but it had lots of heart. It had like feeling and character motivation behind it. And every single time that Hangman Page is the subject of MJF's need for the adoration of the people, it just makes me love this more. And that is very clearly the crux with they are doing this story. And I think it's a fantastic decision.
So there is a part of that beatdown segment that I loved. And as you were talking, it made me realize why I love it. So when MJF was dousing Hangman with the lighter fluid and getting ready to light the match, the way there was like a dozen security team, they sacked him like it was an NFL game. It was like, poof, you hit the thud. And they carried him. This is like, you don't often see this. When they do pull apart brawl, they make it seem like the wrestlers are so strong. It's like you've got two Mustangs or two monster trucks and it's quite hard, but it's like how easy they picked him up and they'll carry him out. And then MJF goes, just let me make my point. Just let me make my point. I just want to make my point.
I just want to set him on fire.
Yeah,
just a little bit of fire.
Thank you. And you know I'm going with this. It reminds me of Homer Simpson. For some weird reason, it's like, it might have, that's like Homer getting carried away. Like, no, I just want to just let me just do what I need to do. I just how to be done. And there's the fact that he was like, let me just make my point. No, just let me just let him on fire. Then you can take me out. And I was like, that is hilarious. Because it wasn't like, he wasn't trying to be a talker, I'm going to kill you. It was just the fact that it's like, please, I have a point to make.
Yeah.
Just let me do it. You're just interrupting me. And it's like that line and that verbiage was chef's kiss. I'm like, because it says all you need to know about the character. He is losing his marble. Because I feel like I'm more excited at the prospect of MJF actually, because the fans turning on him should be, because what AEW were known for was storyline threads that you're rewarded for paying attention to.
Yep.
And now that he's a heel again, you're like, oh, he's in the same old shtick. But I'm like, it would be great if he did actually lose his mind and what it would look like. I'm not saying like Ric Flair in that mental institute kind of situation with WCW. I'm not saying that. Maybe, who knows? And he meets a cute nurse that he converts into being his heel manager. Who knows? But there is something there with MJF's character journey that I love. But when he says, I just want to make my point. Just let me make my point. And I was like, man, is this genius? It's like little phrases that just tells you a lot about a character's state of mind.
Yeah, to the point that he would light someone on fire, not out of malice, but out of his own insecurity.
To make a point as well.
Oh, what a godly character!
You ever heard that? Let me set on fire just to make a point. What? That's like, you're mad.
A man on fire
just to make a
fantastic.
point. That's crazy.
We had an interview backstage where Renee interviewed the director of the Queen of the Ring movie, Ash Avildsen. shout out to Queen of the Ring, Alex, as always. Dear friend and a friend of the channel, as always. And they talked about the movie, and they introduced Toni Storm, who's in the movie. And she said that, they set up the sit-down interview that they were going to play later with Renee Paquette and Mariah May. And we were talking to the audience. This director fella, he didn't do badly in this. Like,
I was impressed.
They set up this segment, and this was like, you've seen a million of these segments in wrestling where it's just some guy from outside the business is going to come in. He's not got any charisma or speaking ability, really.
Deer in the headlights, right?
And he's just going to be there to be like, yeah, I'm really happy to be here. Please watch my movie. I'm so excited for it to come out, and that'll be the whole thing. But he was like doing some back and forth with Toni Storm and like playing into the timeless thing.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, I'm sure we'll never see this man again. But like, if I ever see him again in any other line of work, I'm going to remember that you are actually a fairly charismatic individual.
So Ash Wilson, who is the son of the director of the first Rocky film and the creator of the Karate Kid films. His dad, I think his dad's name Joe. I could be wrong. Is his dad's name Joe? But the great thing was that Toni Storm, she lives in the 1940s Hollywood.
Yeah.
She kept calling him Mr. DeMille because Cecil B. DeMille was a director and producer back in the 1940s and 50s. And his dad was named John G. Avildsen, who directed the original Rocky film, the panned Rocky 5. One people pretend doesn't exist. And he directed Rocky, the Karate Kid 1, Karate Kid 2, Karate Kid 3, but not the next Karate Kid. But anyway, that's his son. But the fact that he leaned into, because the default thing to do with timeless Toni Storm is to be like, what? What are you on about? I'm not supposed to be DeMille. But he was like, oh, darling, it's a PG-13 film. Maybe your clip is sitting somewhere in my... So he came across as a sleazy director, but because he was speaking in that 1940s quickness, so some of the jokes probably got lost in there, but he played along really well. And I've always said that I feel like timeless Toni Storm always needed more in her stable. That it should be a universe in there, not like Matt Hardy. I'm not saying this will go that crazy, but I feel like there's more that could be done in that world. But again, bravo to the sir. But I do want to point out the elephant in the room. Someone who's seen the film has mentioned that apparently Brickhouse Camille actually has a bigger part in the film than Toni Storm, but you wouldn't know it. Because the way they said it's the star of the film, but apparently Camille's got a meteor role, and if there was ever a time to bring her back, that would have been I don't know. I kind of feel sorry. I don't want to create some political thing. I'm always about people being fair, because at the end of the day, I don't chase company logos. I chase, wrestlers to do well in wrestling. No matter how much you feel about someone's political views or ability in the ring, if they've done hard work, it's good to be noted for it. So that's why I'm bringing it up. Camille is actually part of the film and actually has a sizable role in the film. And I just wish AEW, the company she's part of, actually propped her up.
Well, shout out to Camille. Yeah. We then had Kris Statlander and Thunder Rosa taking on Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford. This was another very fun tag match. More women's tags on TV, please and thank you. This was really interesting because early on, Megan Bayne's strength is on full display here. Kris Statlander gets sent to the outside. Thunder Rosa goes for a crossbody onto Megan Bayne. Megan Bayne catches her out of midair, picks her up, throws her over the top rope onto Kris Statlander, and Penelope Ford, I just keep saying that, Penelope Ford.
No, I love it. Booker T pronunciation, Penelope Ford, I love it.
It's just worked its way into my psyche at this point.
Because it looks like that's how it should be pronounced.
It should be. But anyway, she gets in the ring to celebrate with Megan Bayne having done this big thing, and Megan Bayne just turns around, looks at her, picks her up as well, and throws her onto the pile. So I saw that the first time, and I was like, I wonder if that's oh, you helped me the other week, but we're not friends. We're not actually a team. I will do whatever I need to do to be a star type stuff. And could well be, but it's early signs if that is the case. This was not, a breakup or anything like that. They did have one moment of friendly fire later on where Penelope Ford hits her round off back handspring deal and hits Megan Bayne by mistake. Kris Statlander ran wild in this match at her turn, and she's just fantastic. I need more out of Kris Statlander, or more for Kris Statlander. She's done everything to give with what she's been given, but I need Kris Statlander to be given a position to really shine and succeed in 2025. And ultimately, Megan Bayne hit the F5, and I missed the new name of it, and that is my mistake, but she hits her version of the F5 on Thunder Rosa and gets the pin. Megan Bayne, she is a star to be. give her a little bit more time to get people invested in her as a character because she carries herself like a star. She's got like a giant stature and wrestles well whilst being more like a giant. And it's a combination that unfortunately you don't see very often in women's wrestling because unfortunately, if you are someone who has been on like who could play the role of a giant in the women's division, often it's led to clunkiness. You know, and you might see that from someone like a Camille in AEW. You might see that from people like a Raquel.
Once
in,
upon a time, she's
Raquel or a Naya or a Tamina historically in WWE.
Or even Jada once upon a time as well.
Yeah, you know, so she has stood out as like, I don't even think she's technically that tall, but like she carries herself like she is 6'10".
She's billed at 5'11",
which is mad. She looks like she's 6'4". But yeah, this was a really fun tag match. I don't know where we go directly after this from that because it felt like the last few weeks have kind of built to this tag. And Megan Bayne got another big win, a largely clean win in the grand scheme of things. But I would like to see her potentially set up as maybe Toni's challenger post-Revolution. Who knows? Maybe it's a little too early for that. But putting her in a big position to either step up or, you know, sink or swim, basically, I think she would excel.
I feel like there's something missing from the presentation, not Megan herself. She's got the character and the ring work. She's missing a mouthpiece. Stokely's not doing nothing. She's feuding with Statlander. I just said instantly for it. Small stature guy.
I just want to see Stokely back on TV.
I'm picturing it because I'm saying one of my favorite pairing was Stokely and Ivy Nile. I feel like they had great chemistry. And I feel like Stokely has a great talent of being anyone's manager and making it work. He was Timothy Thatcher's manager. Doesn't work on paper, but they made it work. I'm saying that Megan Bayne does not need Penelope Ford. Because Penelope Ford seems to have a codependency of tag team partners, so she gets stuck in that realm. And I'm like, let's break that curse.
She's got tag team amnesia.
Oh, you remember tag team amnesia? My old bitch dusted it off. Oh, tag team amnesia was one of my favorite bits that I used to do. But yeah, she's got tag team amnesia because that's not a bunny. That's a 5'11" or build at 6'1" Amazon. But yeah, Stokely halfway because I think she needs someone that kind of like Yokozuna had Mr. Fuji, even though he wasn't great talking, and he had Jim Cornette. You need usually with monsters like Lesnar or Big Show, we even had various managers at points. When someone's presented as a giant, the one-on-one booking is give him a manager that talks from so she just looks great. So she doesn't need to talk because one of the things is she has a thing called aura, and people actually there was a discourse on X, what we know as Twitter. What's the difference between aura and charisma? Is that same thing? No, charisma is sometimes is verbalized. It's just showing character and personality. Aura is unspoken. You feel it. That's what aura is. It's something that you can't explain it. It's something someone makes you feel something. It's the airport test. So you walk by and you're like, who's that? That is aura. Because when you don't have aura, you can walk past someone like, yeah, I don't really feel that. But aura is like it's like a magnet. You gravitate towards someone because they make you feel something. And Megan Bayne does that. And I feel like if you give it like a Stokely Hathaway who's somewhere, he hasn't been tweeted in months, which has me a bit worried. Make him her manager. That'll complete it. Her being champion, I have no issues because you got Stokely there being her mouthpiece. Look how great she is. She's a goddess. She's this. That's what she needs. She needs someone to pander to her because you don't want to say smart Mark Sterling because that wouldn't go. A sleazy New York lawyer, or you got this fast talking, Bronx, Harlem, New York guy managing her. So I'm saying that she needs that, a manager. But besides that, great. She is being built the way that we've wanted. We like variety in wrestling, right? You don't want the same cookie cutter women over and over again. What makes the division blossom is when you got all different type of archetypes. How often do you see Kris Statlander face someone that's bigger than her? Not often. That makes us feel like the underdog. And sometimes it's great to see someone that's physically imposing like Kris Statlander now be put in the position of being the underdog babyface. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I completely agree. Backstage, we had Renee interviewing Mercedes Moné, and they had a real fun back and forth bit.
I love
where
it.
Renee is unequivocally the best backstage interview in wrestling since Gene Okerlund.
Amen.
I don't think it's close at this point. Always been a big fan since I watched her on Right After Wrestling and Aftermath on The Score.
Look at that.
In Canada.
Looks like that's how far back he goes with watching her. He's like, that's an OG. Oh, that's Renee Paquette. That's not Renee Young.
Listen, the one time it was like for the Cruiserweight Classic or something, they did Kyle Edwards, the former WWE name of Arda Ocal. Anybody's ever seen him on Twitter or whatnot. Renee Paquette and Mauro Ranallo. And that was the Canadian post-show panel. I saw that and went, they've all made it. Obviously, they've all gone on to do very good things in wrestling. Shout out to all of them. I love them dearly. But they had a really fun back and forth deal where Mercedes was like pitching to Renee to do one of her catchphrases, but Renee would do a different one because she has so many. And Mercedes would be like, no, Renee, not that one. Be like, oh, you get whatever when you mess with Monet or
The money.
you can't, the Monet train and all these things. Great stuff. Incredible chemistry between the two. And I love when you have a dynamic between a wrestler and an interview person.
I missed that because that died a bit. Because people talk about secret text. There's like buzzwords that goes around social media. It makes me laugh. We're losing the ancient text of the secret text. One of the things we lost for ages was charismatic backstage personalities that can show their personality and actually interact.
Yeah,
They're not
all
robotic.
robots.
Yeah. What do you think of today? Well, today is the sky is blue today. Okay. Is it going to rain tomorrow? Maybe. No. It's like having a back and forth joust, a human being interacting. That's why Mean Gene was the GOAT, because Mean Gene had different relationships with Ric Flair, with Hulk Hogan, with Macho Man, with Rick Rude. He just had like that. You get different things from Mean Gene, and you liked. I can't wait for him to talk with that guy because you can tell this is going to happen. I miss those days, and Renee is bringing it back.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mercedes just announced that Momo Watanabe will be facing Serena Deeb on Collision, and I'm sure a good match they will have. Then we had the latest in Max Caster's Open Challenge.
I'm a fan.
It's good. It's good. Listen, I'm not taking anything away from him. This role is perfect for Max Caster. Absolutely perfect, and he's nailing it.
And I like his new theme as well. The thing is, he's giving me Zach Fox energy. If you guys know who Zach Fox is, he's an actor and rapper. He kind of like, because I watch Abbott Elementary, and Zach Fox plays like a ditzy kind of rapper slacker boyfriend who's like no good. Max Caster has that energy, but Zach Fox is lovable while Max Caster is grating. But he best wrestler alive. The fact that he's got a bloody certificate he carries around, I'm like, these are genius things. And like you said, in your mind, as long as it doesn't go further than that, that is great for you. Because in your mind, you're like, that is the level you're on. Until you become some sort of work rate guy, that's the level you're on.
Yeah.
Don't infringe upon it.
He is so much more entertaining in this role than like, QT Marshall and the Factory were, or the Wingmen, or any of those like Job Squad type dudes from a few years ago, where if you got one of them on your TV, you're just like, oh God.
Right?
And you get that with this guy, but it's intentional, where he's serving the same role as all of those guys, as being the job guy, but he capitalizes so much more on it than anyone else ever has in AEW anyway. So I really like that. Yeah, it's good.
Best wrestler alive. Call me.
It's funny.
Even had Justin Roberts be the best wrestler alive. Like, it's just, there's so many levels to it. And I think as well, I'm happy. I don't know what he's like backstage, but it takes a lot of eating humble pie to accept that this is your future for the foreseeable. This is you for the foreseeable future. Because not since, for me, Heath Slater's run as a jobber to the stars, have I seen someone take to it to the levels, it may actually swing the pendulum of him getting over again. Because as much as I love Anthony Bowens, he's the worker of the group. In my mind, the scissor thing was an accidental thing because Max Caster's a bit of a naughty boy. He got that over because he's a naughty boy. He's got charisma. He's just that he likes to annoy people. Because I forgot if I could say P double crooked letter. I don't know if I could say that because Mod Mother's watching. But he likes to annoy people, and people like ourselves, I know he's grating because he likes to hop aboard on the polarizing people train. That's why made people not like him. But who knows? Strictly art purposes, we're kind of talking about artistic purposes of the character Max Caster, not the real life guy. The character guy, I just love the fact that he's got his own segment and it's working. It's just that he's getting arse whipped by returning guys and debuting guys.
I could go into a really long diatribe about like the wrestling business and roles evolving, where like over the last like 30 years or so, maybe a little bit longer than that, 35 years, everybody wants to be the champion, you know, like, and granted, I'm sure they did then too, but like everybody wants to be the main event guy, the world champion guy and everything like that. And you don't so much have anymore the set roles of people who are like, well, that's not my job. My job isn't to be world champion. Now, if you aren't that guy, they get pissed off and they go on Twitter and then I'm not getting opportunities, blah, blah, blah. You're missing guys like, you know, if you ever listen to Jake Roberts when he's asked about being WWE champion, he's like, yeah, it would have been cool, but that wasn't my job. You know, my job was to do this. Same with like, you know, Razor did the same thing. Tito Santana says the same thing. And it's like, this is a bit of a glimpse into that where I don't know Max Caster. I don't know his views on any of this, but I'm looking at this and I'll be like, you're perfect in this role. So hopefully we can keep it there.
And another thing they say as well, if I'm on TV weekly, I'm winning. He's not in catering. So
exactly.
It can't be like, you're burying him. It's like,
That's it. If I was to have any sort of nitpick about any of this, it's that I think Max Caster is in a better position right now than Anthony Bowens is.
Crazy, right?
And that's kind of mad.
Imagine that. He goes, Tony, put me on every week and I just lose.
Yeah, it's working for him. Indeed, on this show, he lost to Jay White. Jay White came out, answered this challenge, actually got you effed up chants towards Caster. He was trying to get the most clunky, horrible chants going, and it was just not working. He gets beaten 12 seconds with a Blade Runner, and afterwards, Jay White gets on the mic and basically just says, like, Cope, got your back. He's absolutely turning on this man at some point.
Okay, imagine that someone actually did a thesis on that chant, is to say, the world we live in, if you got a digestible chant, you get over like a yeet. So he did the anti-yeet of like, here's my mouthful of garble that's you're not going to repeat because you ain't going to remember. Boo. That's like heat seeking. He gets it. That is wrestling psychology. That's what's missing. Like you said it, this is a speed title match, if you will, right? He barely made it 3 minutes, but he made
it 12 seconds, bro.
He maximized his minutes. And that's why I'm always happy every week, because I'm like, I get the storyline. I don't need to best wrestler alive over his head because he's not the best wrestler alive. He's deluded. It's there. Again, bravo, sir. Yeah. Bravo.
And then the final thing that we have to talk about here is indeed the sit-down interview between Mariah May and Toni Storm with Renee Paquette mediating. This segment was so excellent. And like, your mileage with Timeless Toni Storm stuff may vary, you know, depending on your tastes and whatnot. I know this was a bit of a thing this week on the internet.
Aged badly, though.
Because this promo segment, my God, as soon as we hit the introductions from Renee, Mariah just stands up and spits in Tony's face. And Renee's like, what's wrong with you?
Renee,
you're out of your mind. I loved Renee in this segment. She was the MVP of this segment to me. Because I love a third party looking at a delusional heel and be like, no, you are wrong. This was your fault. Stop telling yourself otherwise. This was all you're doing. I love that. That in terms of just storytelling. If someone is like just bent out of shape, not thinking straight, and someone does just be like, bro, snap out of it. That to me is good writing. I hate miscommunication bits in storytelling where just nobody says the thing that someone very clearly would say to them. But
RJ City, man, I'm shouting out to that sir, man. Like, he's the one that's been serving that good stuff. I would say the good shiznit, but he's serving that good stuff with storyline.
Quizzlemania Tag Team Champion RJ.
Still, he walked away. Can we get his belt back at some point?
There's like 4 sets of those tag titles out there
in the world.
Anyway, immediately though, Toni never breaks in this segment. She gets spit in the face, and she just goes, well, it's nice to know you still care. And this is a great way, it was a great setup for the reflection of these two women in this show. Because Mariah then goes into this like long, impassioned promo about how she is the woman from hell. She will be what she needs to be to drag you to hell. And just all of this. You are so mad because anything that you did, I did better. And everything that she has been saying, but just passionate, and she's really in her face. She's like climbing over Renee, making her points, and Renee's just like, please stop touching me, get off of me, oh God, I'm gonna get hurt in the crossfire. And then Toni takes her turn, and Toni Storm's promo was so cutting. It kind of like, it's a different dynamic, of course, but it reminded me a lot of the 08 Jericho promos, where she made so much more of a point by speaking softly.
I sentence you to a life of mediocrity.
Oh my God.
You don't deserve death. She
said, you don't deserve death.
I sentence you to a life of mediocrity. She just cut her up. I don't know if she saw the criticism or the comparison that was made about her this week, and she was like, buddy, you got me effed up, because there is layers upon Timeless Toni Storm. I think this return, I feel like more than anything, the theme song's better now. It's everything I wanted it to be. It's even grander, the theme song. But it's like there's layers to the character. She's not. You'd think as a babyface they lean into being goofy. It tends to happen when a wrestler turns babyface. They dial it up to 100, and you're like, you're not the same person I fell in love with. You're not cool anymore. You're not pandering. But there's layers to the character where she's showing a more serious version of a character. She could be timeless, but she's also a human being in that timeless role. And I love how lesser person would fumble under such task of having a ultra cartoonish character, but grounding it and layering it with some pathos and gravitas. But she's done a great job in that promo, as you're saying, because I did cut you off. Sorry, sir.
No, I mean, that was basically it. Just saying that I sentence you to a lifetime of mediocrity. Your star will dwindle. You'll be good, but you'll never be great. And eventually people will wonder, whatever happened to Mariah May? And maybe it is just because Mariah May's title reign was a little mediocre, perhaps.
Underwhelming.
Underwhelming.
Not her fault, but,
not necessarily her fault. But this just felt that much more cutting, because it's like, okay, it is as much a challenge for Mariah May as it is a great line in a promo. Because you could say stuff like this, and it's just empty words if you're saying that to someone who is actually like great at everything. But for someone who hasn't really proved it yet, has shown flashes of greatness, but hasn't had the run that would live up to that level of greatness, to just be like, you better do it or else mediocrity awaits.
Bingo.
It's a challenge for that person to then step up in kayfabe and in real life. And I think that is just marvelous. And she says this to Mariah May, and Mariah May gets so pissed off, she throws her chair aside and stands up. They go face to face, and Renee is just like, I pray that neither of you get hurt. And at the same time, both of them are just like, pray for her, which was very wacky, but it's the bit that we're in. You know, I'm not gonna look at a Timeless Toni Storm promo segment and go like, it's too wacky for me.
I think we passed that.
We're long since past that. If you're hung up over that at this point, like, you're not gonna get it. That's fine.
We're past that point in her first promo, which is in her negligee, and she's like, "What am I doing here? Who am I?" That was from that bar onwards. We just been going up and up and up. We're in the stratosphere, honey. Mariah May, all was missing was a bottle of whiskey on her left hand, because she'd been wearing that shirt.
Yeah.
All was missing, so slurring her words, because it felt like, because you mentioned something that you're alluding to, the power dynamic shifted. Because it's like whoever's a champion, because it is like a joust back and forth. It's like when Mariah May won it and then Toni Storm disappeared, and then when she became rookie Toni Storm, it was a way to make herself subservient. It's almost like the art of war, where it's like you present yourself to your foe as someone less than, so they don't expect your attack, because that's what it was. And now that Toni Storm has won, she's now back in a position of power. Mariah May, who probably did not expect to lose so hard, she is crashing hard, and is now at that point where she's looking a bit pathetic and desperate and a bit unhinged. You get an unhinged version because I am the woman from hell because she does the baby talk, but the baby talk sound extra creepy because she's really demented.
Yeah.
I'm the woman from hell. I'll drag you through. And it's like the desperation and the craving. You're like, it's kind of when someone hugs you, you know, like a desperate lover or ex-lover, a jilted lover is trying to get you back and you're trying to unclench yourself from their arms around your neck.
Yeah.
It felt like that, but as a promo.
It feels like they always say that the opposite of love isn't hate. The opposite of love is apathy. And that would just make Mariah May break more than Toni Storm being filled with rage and everything, because that is the response she's trying to elicit from Toni. But for Toni to just be like, no, I'm above this, and you will not reach me on my level, and you will dwindle, and you will fall and be forgotten. That tears Mariah May apart.
But not even just that. It hit me again. I love it when you speak. My light bulb goes off because you trigger something in my head. Basically, we've gone back to the original dynamic because that was Toni Storm when she first met Mariah. Who are you again? Do you remember? That was what it was in the beginning. It was like, I'm your biggest fan. Whatever your name is, that every week she would remember her. It's like we have gone full circle where Toni's gone back to the apathy tone of like, who is this person? Why are you bothering me?
Exactly. And it's so much more effective in its current state, at least for this promo's sake, because the first time around, you're setting all of this up. And as a character, Mariah May has it in her head that I'm doing this to get close to her. And then, you know, this is all part of the plan. But now she's on the other end of that plan, having done it not had the effect on Toni that she had hoped, having lost the title back to her, and now is kind of like still trying to do that same thing. And now Toni is still apathetic towards her. It's like that plan, even despite having had a title reign, has failed.
It didn't impress her, yeah.
There are layers to that story, and that is why this is the best AEW women's story they've ever told.
Bingo.
Make sure, of course, that you let us know what you thought of it in the comments down below and in our Omega chats. Let's get to them in just a little bit. But first, we have some very important people to shout out. Those are our Pledgehammers who have signed up to get their own custom wrestling nickname read out on a show just like this. So a big shout out to the Brahma Bull, Rockberto. Yeah.
The Swiss Submission Machine, Andres. My glasses.
Fugalistaller.
Oh.
Yeah. Big Jiggy Josh Martin. Yeah.
Born to do it, Evan Shibley.
Yeah. Abominable Michael Abbott. Yeah.
The Machine Gun, Alex Anderson.
Yeah. Please now with feeling. The Machine Gun, Alex Anderson.
Wait.
Very good. He's a sexy man, not an Andrew Grossman. Yeah.
Bolding Brummy Brett Linforth.
Yeah. Shield Maiden, the Zornies. Yeah.
Go Ace. The Ace of Spades. Adrian Saint.
Yeah. Adrian Stark.
Yes. I love this guy. This is why I love working with him. I listen, don't tell anyone. I would kind of work for you, but I like getting paid. I love working with this guy. This guy's effing wonderful. One of the hardest working guys in all WrestleTalk. If you knew what he does behind the scenes, you would weep with piss.
Jesus Christ. Well, a big shout out to the cleaner. You got a mess to clean up. The cleaner, Kenny Shaw. Yeah. And finally, they put the Mo in Movember. Yeah. Thank you, of course, to all of our Pledgehammers, but especially those who have signed up at the tier to get a custom wrestling nickname read on a show just like this. Let's go through our final Omega chats. Ding, 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 ding. Your Rico chats for today. We'll go through all the ones now, so get them in. This is your last call. Jared Hazelwood says, Brian Cage looks like DX era Rick Rude on a He-Man action figure's body. Yeah, honestly, the dark hair and dark tights. Yeah, I get what you mean.
He dyed his hair though, right? He did.
Oh,
It
yeah.
looks like it's so.
Oh
thick.
yeah,
I'm like,
it's much darker.
Did he like take Drew McIntyre's hair dye? But Drew McIntyre looks almost like dark blue.
Pons says, I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, but I really think Mariah and Toni should main event Revolution. AEW probably won't have a women's feud this hot for a while, so they should strike while the iron's hot. I know they won't, but it'd be nice. This is not an unpopular opinion. I've seen a lot of people say this, and in our predictions, we say that there is a hell of an argument to be made that this should be the main event of Revolution. It'll kind of depend on what they want to do with the world title scene, because I don't think you're necessarily as likely to see a world title change in the women's match as you are in that match. but they've definitely earned it through their hard work.
Someone out there's crying, but we gave you Grand Slam.
Yeah. I mean, they did, but also, why stop there?
Yeah.
Y'all have gotten tricky with this because some people are naming their things like missing Streamlabs name, so I can't tell if this is actually a name that has been left out or someone taking the piss. So if this is your chat, make sure that you let our mods know and we'll get your name read out. But howdy, y'all. How would you feel, or how would you think of Cope winning the title, beating Ricochet, then Christian Cage cashes in one last match for the big one? Also, if Bob Holly was a race car driver in the 90s, shouldn't he have been Crash Holly?
I love that. I flipping love that.
Oh, that's very good.
Yes.
Very fun. I don't know. If Cope wins the title on Sunday, I think Christian's cashing in and winning the title. I don't see Cope walking out of Revolution with the title. Personally, it might happen, but I don't see it.
I think that they're choosing chaos this weekend, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen. To be honest, I can't wait. It is. I love the unpredictability because if I was a betting man, I would stop betting because I'll be scared of losing my money.
Also, I think Swerve is beating Ricochet, personally.
Same.
Richie B says, greetings all on this beautiful Sat-E day. Just throwing something out for opinion. One thing I've noticed is that AEW doesn't have that power couple on the show like a Dom and Liv or Triple H and Stephanie. Do you think a pairing of MJF and, I'm guessing this is going to be Mariah, would work? Probably not, because you've got Alicia Toot backstage.
Yeah.
Which is like, I mean, I get what you're saying, though. We haven't had that many, like, couples on screen. A lot of them have been acknowledged, but it hasn't been part of the presentation outside of, like...
Ruby Soho, and Kuhan Ange is the only ones I can think of.
Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford.
Yeah, I mean, you could go the Kyle Fletcher and Sky Blue route, because Sky Blue, I can't say she's got a defined character. You can just pluck her out and put in Don Callis' family.
Yeah.
Him and his girl.
But that's been about it. Like, Lee Johnson and Julia Hart have acknowledged their relationship on screen. So I agree. I think it might be a solid idea, honestly. Barge says, was watching from the floor. I haven't gotten to watch the TV feed, but I hope the mics did us justice because that was great. Memorial is built for events like that. Dralistico versus Hologram on Collision is a hood classic, epic lucha things. Make sure that y'all are going out of your way to watch Collision. It's a fantastic show this year. I'm as shocked as everyone else. It might be my favorite show going right now. It's a brilliant wrestling show. But yes, shout out to you, my friend, because holy heckins, what a crowd. What a crowd, what a building. The building looks so cool. I love venues like that for wrestling, but a very hot crowd.
Yes, smashed it.
Absolutely. Give yourself a pat on the back. Will Campbell says, hi, guys. The story progression with Max and Hangman has been great. From their glares backstage to Max now basically fully snapping and needing to be carried away by security after wanting to set Hangman on fire. Best thing in AEW right now, in my opinion. I'd have to agree, but thankfully now it's in very good company. There's like 4 or 5 fantastic things at the top of AEW that I love just about equally, but this is my favorite.
A fire has been lit inside AEW, and I love it. I hope they do not let go. They should just burn brighter and brighter till you can't ignore it.
Unless MJF's the one setting it.
You just want to make a point. Just let him make a point.
Just let him make a point. Kuzu says, had to miss most of the second half for personal reasons, but I enjoyed this Dynamite. Swerve getting his aura back, Toni cutting another excellent promo, and even the Death Riders don't annoy me as much. I'll have to go back and watch what I missed. I highly recommend it because the tag matches on this show were a big thumbs up.
They banged.
Joe Schmo says, you got me thinking the show would have been better off if Swerve just retained. Death Riders could just be brutal, hunting down vets without Bryan leashing them, and Swerve could continue his dynamic character as champ with his foes going for gold. Yeah, it's tough because you will look like such a goober if you go out there and say that Bryan Danielson shouldn't have won that match at all in. Because I was there. We were both there. It's one of the most magical experiences I've ever had in my life.
Then I had to leave straight after because my partner was pregnant. You guys know, I wanted to milk it, but I had a deal because it was getting long. That's a conversation for another time, but I just wanted to mention it. We were there. It was so magical. I even told my partner, she's like, can we go? I was like, are you effing kidding me? It's Bryan Danielson potentially winning the title. Yeah. That's how big it was.
It was that big. It was that great. Maybe the best AEW match without an elite member in it, as I saw some people discussing this week. It certainly could be. that being said, if you just, like, if you can blip that from existence and I don't even know that I would be missing it, yeah, I'd probably have had, like, you could have had Hangman beat him for the title.
I mean,
either at All In or at the cage match at All Out.
Yeah.
And then have a Hangman heel run as world champion. I just think that would be so much more interesting than what we've gotten with the title since then, unfortunately.
It felt like it should have been Hangman's time as heel champion. It's so ridiculous, right? Coming out of the cage match, like, fresh.
He was the most interesting character by a mile.
Yeah.
And he still is. Funny that. Justin Enzeldua has been a member for 40 months in a row, saying AEW really missed the chance to make Rampage an all-women show. Could have gotten Renee Paquette and a heel Samantha Irvin on commentary. Well, yeah, I mean, we can say that, and it's nice in concept, but unfortunately, Rampage wasn't doing well anyway.
Yeah.
And if you do that, unfortunately, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like, it won't work because of this, and this won't work because you just end up in a circle with it, right? You're not going to... Rampage is the show that nobody watches.
Yeah.
So you make that the all-women show.
And it's kind of like you're setting them up for failure.
You're setting up the all-women show to be the one that fails.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
I've always,
give them an all-women show that's going to succeed.
I always had a fan thing in my head of WWE bringing back Heat as a women's show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give the women something to do. I do believe in my head, like, they should be an outlet for women that's doing nothing, or because I know they do. I know they get split with ROH and Dynamite and Collision, but I do feel like women should have their own shows, have reps, because it is a mainly male dominated, and just to make it look equal, have one male match in there to see how it feels. A singular male match. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, imagine that. And finally, Mayor of Painesville Dan says, hello, Sat E. Hello, Tempest. Hope you are doing well. I'm on my way to 16 karat gold. Just sending positive vibes and love. I am excited to see the stars that might end up on Dynamite in the next few years. Indeed, indeed. Shout out to WXW. If you're in Germany going to the show, make sure you say hi to lovely Mayor of Painesville Dan.
One of the loveliest guy you ever meet, man.
Absolutely. And with that being said, that will draw our review to a close. I'm going to check the poll. So, the poll... Can't speak. I'm running out of steam.
No.
Sat, talk to the people for 5 seconds.
Well, guys, I hope you guys had a great time listening to our show. Please put in the comments and let us know how you feel about the show, or is there anything we missed out, or anything you liked in our discussion, because I do sometimes go in the comment section. I do read, and I sometimes do respond, depending on how you talk.
So talk nice. Our poll, of course, 85% thumbs up, 11% in the middle, and 4% down. I think that might be the exact same split that we had last week. And if that is nothing but consistent, I don't know what is.
Brilliant.
The great run of AEW Dynamite shows continues. May it continue through the whole year.
Amen.
We're going to be back on Monday. Luke and I will be reviewing AEW Revolution 2025 in full. So make sure that you are subscribed to the WrestleTalk Podcast channel so you don't miss a single moment of it. And make sure that notifications are enabled so you don't miss when we go live. Otherwise, I have been Tempest. That has been Sat. Thank you very much for joining us on this Sat-E Day. We'll see you on Monday.
The house always wins.